Welcome to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten. Hi, I'm Wendy. After I graduated with my master's in wellness management, I started my own company, T2 Coaching, Health, Fitness, and Sport.
And I'm Kirsten, an athlete, vegan, life coach, and girl mom, running a business focused on helping others create a life they love.
We are here to explore all things wellness to help you become the person you've always wanted to be.
So if that's why you're here, open your ears and your mind as we tackle the world of wellness together.
Hey guys, we had a little technical difficulty, but we are back. Hopefully this was totally seamless and you guys didn't even know what was going on. Only Wendy was going on.
I just saw a little thing that the actual recording is higher quality. I saw a little thing across my
So maybe we have to worry about. We're worried about nothing. We're worried about everything or nothing. Well, we were talking about cycling training, whether you're a triathlete or a cyclist. And if you live in an area where you can't train outdoors all year round, what are some easy tips and things to consider when training indoors or racing outdoors? So we kind of talked a little bit about where we are at with it personally and what we would work with our athletes on. So, Wendy, what would you say are the three most important things that somebody who is biking indoors can do to work on to transfer to the outdoors? So let's say yes, it's ideal to get outdoors, even 2 times before your race. But if that's not a possibility, or what can people do in the meantime if they are stuck inside for the entire winter?
Well, and again, it just depends on what kind of bike you're on. I wanted to also mention when I first moved to Georgia, I would ride my mountain bike to get some quality hills in. And if I had to go on the sidewalk, I felt safe going on the sidewalk. And then I'd come to Lifetime and get on the spin bike and crank out some intervals in a safe area where I wasn't going to be disrupted by traffic. And I would be able to train with power and speed, knowing that the intensity and the effort was there, knowing that would not necessarily equate to outdoor pacing miles per hour average, but knowing that I was getting the quality and the effort. So if you are inside, I think that the best way to measure intensity is with a power meter or heart rate monitor, as well as rate of perceived effort, not miles per hour. I have an athlete who's always like, gosh, I'm still slow. And I'm like, forget about miles per hour. Of course you're slow. You're riding stationary. You're not going anywhere. It's not the same. The focus on the quality or the effort or the intention of the workout as best you can indoors. And just having the knowledge that it's going to be different when you get outside, having the knowledge that getting comfortable with bike handling and especially descending is going to be a little bit different. Knowing that when you're outside on hills, you're going to have gear management. And if you're a beginner all inside and you're not used to shifting gears, it's going to be a different experience for you outside. I know for me is I used to always get stuck in the big chain ring because that's all I knew. And then when I would try to shift on a hill, I would be what's called cross chaining. I'd be on my biggest gear in front and my biggest cog in the back, and I'd shift gears and cross chaining, my chain would fall off. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on. And it was just mismanagement of my gears because I didn't know. This was 34 years ago when I started. And so just having the knowledge to know it's different and just, again, to execute the workout details as best you can on whatever apparatus you have. I know I coach an athlete who travels and he has access to like Planet Fitness or whatever his health club is. And so he's stuck on more of the cardio bike with the big fat seat and he can't train with power. And it's like, okay, well, here we go. We're training by effort. And at least you're getting in some 30-minute bike workouts over the course of the month when you're not had access, because some people just don't have access to a bike when they travel. And that's better than nothing.
Right. And one thing I thought of when you were talking about not judging your like miles per hour by the bike, one thing you could do if you are aiming for a goal and you're using either rate of perceived exertion or power or miles per hour, instead of using that data as like, this is the end all data, you're like, this is the data on this bike that I'm going to work with. So then, like, let's say once a week, you want to do 10 miles and see how fast you go. You just do it on the same bike every single time. And so then you'll have real feedback, not necessarily, oh, this is going to be the exact data that translates to outside data, but it'll help you. You'll see if you're getting stronger, if your 10 miles is getting faster and faster on that indoor bike.
Yeah. And again, if your 10 miles an hour used to be 40 minutes and then a month later it's 35 minutes, you've built your fitness. You've gotten stronger and faster on that bike, which would mean you're going to be stronger and faster rider outside.
Right. The other thing I noticed, because I do teach indoor cycling class, is that people have a hard time standing up on the bike, like on the indoor bike. And even if you're not someone who stands up a lot when you ride, I feel like getting comfortable standing on those bikes will make your inner and outer thighs work a little bit more for some stability. It'll make your core work a little more. It'll make your body a little more stable on the bike. And so even though the bike is really stable, if you're a little unstable coming out of the saddle, even at like higher cadence, lower resistance, that might, for someone who can't be outside on the bike at all, that might start building some of those instabilities that you're going to feel that first time.
Right. And something I also just thought of is dealing with the wind. If you're not used to riding with a headwind and tailwind, if you're doing like a race outside on a coast, it's usually windy one direction or another. It's monitoring your effort and knowing if you're faster than you think you should be, it's probably because you had a tailwind.
Right.
And so knowing that when you turn around, you are going to be slower and working harder because then you have a headwind. And so again, if you don't know that's going to happen, just by recognizing it and knowing it and being prepared for that, it's really important. I've talked to so many beginner athletes who don't know that because they don't get an opportunity to experience that until race day. And then they're just trashed. They just didn't pace themselves well. And the way to pace yourself is to monitor your effort. Even though you're hauling at 25 miles an hour and your effort is a 3 on an RPE scale of 1 to 10, it's because you have a tailwind. So then you're going to turn around and you're going to be going 15 miles an hour and your effort might be a 5 or 6 because you have a headwind. It's like going uphill. Right.
I think that training inside for a flat course is a lot, it transfers a lot more than training inside for a really hilly course.
Definitely.
So maybe I know if you're like, I'm only going to be able to train inside. Maybe even if you have availability in the summer, but you have a newborn. So you're only going to be riding your bike when your baby is sleeping and you know you're not outside. Maybe pick a race where the course profile is a little flatter and you can train more on the trainer and focus on a hard effort and endurance and holding those steady watts in a time trial position, because that's practice on a bike. Then the shifting positions and, like Wendy said, the shifting of gears that you have to do when you are training and racing on hills.
Yeah. Different muscle groups.
So I was thinking, I've never done this, and tell me if you would recommend this, but I used to listen to the Trainer Road guy. Have you ever listened to the Trainer podcast?
Yeah.
So I listened to it years and years ago, and I remember one of the in mid race, and he put his trainer and his bike in his bathroom, closed the door, turned on the shower so it would be all steamy, had a couple of space heaters in there, and he would do workout in this like steam room that in his bathroom to mimic the environment that he was going to be racing in. Would you go that far?
I mean, I wouldn't now because I'm old school. Like I didn't have that opportunity to when I started. And so I already know what heat and humidity feel like. I know what dry heat feels like. So I don't feel like I need to train in it because I never had that opportunity. I just trained where I was and adapted to whatever I needed to adapt to when I got to the race day conditions. I know there's athletes who go as far as maybe going into a sauna or a steam room and jog to get used to running in the heat and humidity. I'm not against that. I'm like, I can't hurt, but it can't hurt, and it's a good opportunity if you want to haul all your trainer and your bike into your bathroom. Sure, why not?
Right.
That's actually a really good idea for those other athletes who really mentally feel like they need to experience heat and humidity if that's where they're going to race.
Yeah, and I feel like you and I are both of the same belief that if something doesn't hurt someone and it's giving them the confidence they need to get through the race, it's a go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I have an athlete I'm training, and she's convinced that she's doing New Zealand, and she's convinced the bike ride is going to take her like 8.5 hours. So she's doing 8.5 hour bike rides. And I'm like, more power to you, honey. She's done 11 Ironmans already, but this is her 12th, and she's doing legacy. So she wants to make sure she finishes under the cutoff. So, and again, she has the time, not hurting her. She doesn't have injuries from it. It's giving her the confidence to get through it when race day comes. So I'm like, yep, let's do that.
Let's do that. You know, that story just reminded me of our friend Donna.
Yes.
I think because Donna used to do stuff like that.
Yeah, she would do like 7-8 hour bike rides because she's like, the Ironman's going to take me that long and I want to be used to it. And and then she got through. She finished her own, and it worked for her.
Again, as long as I think she's doing New Zealand, it's coming up in March, right? As long as she's not overtraining and the fatigue of doing these 8 hour rides are not impacting other things, and she does a good taper, no harm done. It's the obsessiveness of wanting to do 8 hours, obsessively, compulsively, not really, benefiting her in any way because she's already done 10 of them. She doesn't need to do any more stuff. That's an extreme. Right. Because then she'll be probably fatigued going into her race.
Yeah, and again, it's needs that for her confidence. And if she didn't do it, she would get to race day and her head would be a hot mess, not believing she would do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
kudos.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else that you wanted to add? Oh, I was thinking of one thing I wanted to add. Whether you're indoors or outdoors, but I think people don't think about this when they're indoors, is if you're going to do a long training session that mimics your 70.3 or your century ride or your Ironman distance on the bike, I would also use that time to practice your clothing, what you're planning on wearing, and your nutrition. Because there's not very many times that you're on the bike for such a long time that you can really practice that nutrition to see if it works for you, and your clothing to make sure there's no chafing, that it's comfortable, and all those things. So I definitely think if you're going to do some of those longer sessions on the bike, decide what you want to use for your nutrition for the race and practice that a couple times. Because I find when I'm doing things indoors, since I'm indoors and I can have like 2 shakes next to me and I can go to the bathroom every 2 seconds, I get spoiled and I'm like, oh, I'm getting hungry, I'm just going to drink a shake. But I'm not going to do that in the race. I'm going to be drinking my sports drink, my carb drink. And so I need to remember to practice those things when I'm indoors, because if I was going on a long ride outdoors, I wouldn't have 2 shakes in my backpack that I'm going to drink when I get hungry.
Right. Absolutely.
So anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think, again, the basics is what we're saying is ride outside whenever possible, especially when you're in that final 8 weeks of your build. ride indoors all the other times so you can focus on your power output, your pacing, heart rate, or rate of perceived effort in a controlled environment. So it's not going to vary according to terrain, but just be aware that terrain is going to change things if you're not used to it. I mean, for as long as I've been in the sport, I'm in year 34. I'm not going to get outside this day and age because I'm focusing on trail running. I'm going to be outside on my bike maybe in May, June. And so, and then I'm off my bike September. I don't ride anymore. So, I mean, there's many months that I'm not riding. I still have to go through that adaptation, especially with hills.
Yes.
Is that adaptation of my downhills and bike handling skills downhill.
Yes. And every single time I get on my bike for the first time in the spring or late spring, early summer, whenever the first time on my bike is, every time, and I could be riding inside, like amazing numbers for me, feeling great, feeling confident. I get on the bike for the first time and I was like, what the heck am I doing? Do I even remember how to bike? And it feels really wobbly and it feels like, oh my gosh, I should have gotten on my bike more every single time. But like Wendy, we've been doing this for so long that after a couple times on my bike, then I feel totally back to normal.
Yeah.
So I think the more experience you have with riding outside, the quicker it comes back. But taking any time off, it's kind of like when we swim and we take time off. Like you could be a great swimmer, but like this girl that I know that she trains while I coach masters in the morning. Her name's Annette. She's a professional triathlete now. She's been sick the past couple months, nonstop sick. She has a bunch of kids. I saw her at the pool this morning and she's an amazing swimmer and she's a professional triathlete with a swimmer background. So her swim was always the best thing anyway. And she just came back to swimming after a couple months of kind of like really low swims. And she was doing a hard swim and she was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard because she hadn't been doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, with swimming, biking, and running, you guys stay as consistent as you can, but also Wendy and I always preach you're working this sport around your life. And if your life isn't conducive to riding outside for a spell or, for whatever the reason, then you do what you can do. And that's all you can do.
Yep. Adapt when needed.
Yes. So what are some of I know you have a couple listener questions.
So let's change gears to a swimming question.
Yes.
I had my friend Kelly ask me, I think it was a personal question, but more a coaching question because he knows I coach swimming. Is it better to lift weights or do I lift weights before or after I swim? Again, a great question that I get all the time. And so, my first answer is I'm assuming he means back to back. So he's either going to swim and then immediately lift or lift and then immediately swim. It all depends. Number one, it depends on the priority. Is your priority to get in a specific swimming workout intensity effort, or is your priority to get a certain amount of strength, power, stability in the gym? So do whatever's priority first, because if you lift and then swim, that lift is going to impact your swim effort and how you feel. If you swim and then lift, if the swim is long or intense for you, that's going to impact how you feel in the weight room. I personally think swimming is a great warm-up for strength training. And as a strong swimmer, I can still swim pretty hard or long and still manage my strength effort, power, max effort in the gym. But I definitely notice, because I love to do back and I love to do pull-ups. And if I do strength and then swim, I feel those sore, tight muscles, which is amazing still, even to this day, with as much as I strength train and swim. So that I usually kind of swim knowing I'm going to do an easier swim. And sometimes if you do strength, I have athletes do strength to really engage their lats and make their lats sore. So when they swim, they're going to feel those sore lats if they're using them in their stroke. If they're really sore from weights and they don't feel their lats when they swim, it's a technique issue and we still have to work on certain techniques. So again, a lot of it just depends. but ultimately it depends on what is the priority workout, what is the intensity of the workouts, and what is the duration of the workouts. And that's going to lead to one thing or another. Sometimes it's nice to do the lift, then the swim, because then you shower, rather than doing the swim, doing the weights. If you're going to have some sweat involved in weights, then you're going to have to shower, but you were just already wet first.
Right.
So there's a lot of mindset stuff going on to answer that question, or to determine what's right for you. I like to have athletes in their off-season, base season, do the weights and then the swim. And then when they're going into the race-specific build, I like them to swim first, because that becomes more race-specific effort is the pool. And we're kind of phasing out the weights. We're making them lighter. We're going into a maintenance mode. So that comes second after the swim.
Right. And I have a lot of people ask this question with just cardio in general as a personal trainer, like my personal training clients who aren't athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten the question for 20 years is, should I do cardio or weights first? And I always tell them the exact thing you just said is depends on what your priority is for that day. So if your priority for that day and in your week and right now in the phase of what you're doing is your strength, and you're just doing cardio because you have to maintain some cardio for health, then do your strength. I mean, you need a little warm up anyway before strength, but if I'm like a major cardio session, do it after, because if you do a big cardio session and then strength train, then your strength training isn't going to be as strong as if you did that when you were fresh.
Right.
And I always 100% of the time swim last on every workout I do, whether it's like a swim bike, a swim run, a weights swim, anything where there's a swim, I swim last for the exact reason you stated at the end, is that I like being sweaty and tired and sore and getting in the water, cleaning myself off, stretching out my legs when I'm kicking with fins, stretching out my hips when I'm doing breaststroke and side stroke. And to me, the swim is like the recovery. Even if I'm doing a hard set in the middle and then I'm already clean, I can take my shower, get dressed, and then I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Logistics.
Yeah. And so for me, like with running, a lot of my fall was strength training before I ran. And now it's running and then strength training as I'm getting ready for my race season.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I have a swimming question. While we're talking about swimming, somebody asked me, should I be bilateral breathing or breathing on one side? And I think this is a really good question, because she didn't ask it that way. She can only, in her words, which I told her to listen to our mindset podcast we did last week, because in her words, she said, I can't breathe on the other side. And so he was like, is that okay? I'm just breathing on one side because I can't breathe on the other side. And I mean, I think for me, I think personal preference. How long can you hold your breath? But it's interesting because I grew up breathing on one side. Like my coach, we would do breathing pattern swims where we breathe on 2s, 4s, 6s. That was it. I was never taught to bilateral breathe. And then when I got older, I learned about the total immersion, like when I first started triathlon. And that was about the rotation and the, kick on side and the long axis drills. So it was very challenging for me to teach myself to breathe on the other side. And when I train in the pool, I breathe bilaterally. I breathe on 3s, 5s, 3s, every once in a while 2s or 4s, but mostly bilaterally. But the minute I get in a race, I breathe every other stroke, no matter what I'm racing. So I think ingrained in me is breathing on even numbers, but I think it's really important when you're learning to swim so that you get balance and learning to rotate on both sides, that you learn to bilateral breathe. And whether you do that in competition or not, that's up to you. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So again, great question. I was the same way. I was a one side dominant breather probably until I was in high school, because I remember I was at the Detroit Boat Club doing our second swim of the day during the summer. We would try to squeeze in 3 swims a day sometimes. And we would go to my coach's boat club pool, and he learned about bilateral breathing, and he told us to breathe every third. And I was a natural at it. Like it didn't impact me in any negative way. It was really actually easier. And I think I remember I just continued doing it because I was faster doing it that way. Now, when I work with swimmers, swim technique, I guide them if they want to learn how to bilateral breathe, which I always encourage for that rotation purpose and balancing your left and right arm strength, is only breathe to the non-dominant side. So like do a 25, breathe to the dominant side, do a 25 meters, breathe to the non-dominant side, make it your whole practice of that day and only breathe to the non-dominant side, because you have to be comfortable breathing to the non-dominant side in order to be comfortable breathing bilaterally, which means every like 3 strokes right, 3 strokes left. And so you just have to spend some time breathing to the non-dominant side. Everyone can do it if they want to. It's not something, it's maybe something that you can't do in the moment, but if you want to learn, you can, and you breathe to the non-dominant side and focus on, again, a total immersion thing where you're really extended while you're breathing and you're leaving that arm out there for balance. And it may just take longer. It may not, but you have to really be willing to try it. And I just encourage it for athletes. And then, sometimes I work with very, very beginners. They don't have a dominant side.
Right.
So for those athletes, it's like, oh, great. That's great. You don't even know what the dominant side is. Yeah. Let's get bilateral breathing right now.
Yeah. Or they'll say, because I work with so many beginners and they're like, oh, this side feels easier. Like even just kick on your side. They're like, this side feels easier. But I don't say, okay, well, then let's just go that side. I'm like, great. That, we're doing both sides and I teach bilateral breathing. But it's interesting because the swim school I work at, their philosophy, they teach one-sided breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I work at the swims, not my private clients there because I can do whatever I want if they're my private clients. But when I'm coaching at the swim school, to follow their philosophy, then I have to teach that we breathe on 4s.
Mm-hmm.
So, which, is fine, especially like their kids, they're learning, they want it to be comfortable. But yeah. I'm all about the, and then when you race, whatever you have to do to get through the race.
Yeah.
So let's do one. You had a couple more. Let's do one more.
So I had a question. I like this one. This was actually one I saw in a Facebook group. So it says, how do you handle bad workouts? And I say bad in quotations. To lace the shoes up and get 2 miles in and nothing in the tank, and then try to swim, but end up being whole blubber rather than purposeful moving thing. I know they say just start and it gets better, but what happens when it doesn't? The reason I love this question is because they use the word bad. Whenever someone uses a subjective word, my first response is saying bad is in the mind of the beholder. And the second reason I love this question is because we all experience bad workouts. And what I've learned, because I have the experiences, is when I'm having what quote unquote a bad workout, meaning low energy, just tired, not in the mood, I go home and sleep. Maybe not necessarily right away, but I know I'm sleep. I need more sleep, and I eat. So my reply was, I go home and instead of training for an hour, I'm going to go home and use that hour and take a nap, a 30-minute nap, and I'm going to eat a lot of food. Because usually for me, it's just I needed more fuel. I didn't get enough in the day before, and usually I bounce back pretty quickly from that bad workout where I'm just not into it, or I have to adapt. Like if it was supposed to be a certain intensity today and I'm just not hitting those numbers, I'll just adapt and say, okay, I need a recovery day, and I'll just maybe flip flop. And if I were to have a coach, I'd just say, today I just didn't have it in me. I made it a recovery day. Let's move that intense day to another day during the week. And so really it's just about experience, adapting, making sure you're sleeping and eating to help you recover.
Yeah. And I always think about the rule of thirds. I read about it in some autobiography of a professional runner. And she learned it from her coach. And the rule of thirds is 1/3 of your workouts are going to suck. 1/3 of your workouts are going to be boring, mundane. You got through it, nothing good, nothing bad. And then 1/3 of your workouts are going to be amazing. You're going to hit all the marks. You're going to feel great. So if you have a couple bad workouts, and just know you have a couple good ones on the horizon. And I just experienced this last week. I did an Olympic distance try with my friend. My swim was completely like exactly how I knew it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. Same time I always get. What didn't feel hard, didn't feel easy, a little kind of mundane, boring. My bike felt amazing. I was like hitting big numbers. I felt strong. And then I got to my run and my 10K went from a 9-minute pace to a 14-minute pace.
Uh-huh.
And it was like a slow descent because I kept cramping. I kept having to walk. I was like, I went back to my car. I ate well, first I drank all my electrolytes. I was still cramping. Then I'm like, I might not have eaten enough calories on the bike. And so I ate 2 bars, but then that was like too much. So I could barely move. It was downhill fast. But I thought, but it was no big deal because I thought of the rule of thirds. And I just did 3 sports, and each one was amazing, one was boring and mundane, and one was horrific. And I was like, okay, yep, that's how it's supposed to be. And then it reminded me next time I do a longer workout, I need to eat and drink what I would do when I'm racing. That reminded me because I just did what I had my peanut butter and banana. I had a shake. Then I drank like my Energize and then some electrolytes.
Right. And I have to say this, if it wasn't for my first attempt in learning, if it wasn't for those bad workouts, I wouldn't have the successes I've had.
Yes.
And so if you're not having bad days, you're doing something wrong.
Right. You're not going to learn. Like they're just learning days and they're reminder days. Like after this, my friend and I just did this run and I was so on the run that my stomach was hurting. I got back to the car to wait for her. I was just going to keep running because I wanted to get in a longer run, but my stomach hurt so bad because I didn't eat enough. So then I ate 2 bars. Then I was too full. So I sat in my car and then we got donuts on the way home. And I was like, oh my gosh, my stomach hurts so bad. But instead of me thinking like, oh, I'm so annoying, I'm such a failure, I'm like, little reminder, don't start a run hungry and don't eat donuts because they make you feel like crap. So it's 2 amazing reminders. So they're fresh in my mind now for the future.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So what are you most excited for this upcoming week?
Probably my final meet of the youth swim coaching. It probably is. I may have one more meet. It just depends if one of my kids wants to go. So I'm looking forward to my final youth swim coaching meet.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I have a lot more of those in my future.
Yeah. And I love coaching youth swimming, but it's time for a break and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Time to do something different. It's time for a change. Love changes.
Yes. I don't know what I'm excited about other than I think in general, I'm excited that it's February. It's the second month of my 2 main priorities of getting out of debt and my sleep consistency. And I'm doing so well on both of them that I'm just really excited to just keep focusing on those 2 things.
Awesome.
Yeah. And last week, my training went by the wayside a little, which is typically my priority. And I kind of didn't care. So I'm rolling with that instead of being like, oh gosh, your race is going to suck because you're not focusing on training. I kind of don't care. I think maybe I don't know if I'm over the whole, like I'm ultra competitive or if I just don't have any big goals for racing right now. And I just want to go out and like do what I can and work hard and see what happens. But
I always say that, I that's my thing lately is let's try it, see what happens.
Yeah. So I'm just so excited about the other things like, and on my Whoop, just from focusing on my sleep consistency, my longevity rate of aging has decreased and my age of Whoop has decreased in just 2 months of me focusing on sleep consistency.
Sweet.
I know. I'm going to live forever now. All right. Well, let us know if you guys have any other questions about the biking stuff. We are going to do episodes on running and swimming also because we are getting more requests for triathlon related things because we're both triathlon coaches and I think a lot of our listeners are triathletes, amazingly
And
enough.
we do triathlon, at least I do, for my mental and physical well-being.
Yeah, exactly. So it fits right in with what Wendy and I discuss on the podcast. So if you have any specific questions or any other wellness specific questions, please let us know. And we'll see you guys next week.
Make it a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
If you want to learn more about us or anything we talked about today, check out the links in our show notes.
We would love to know what you think of our podcast and what you want more of. So drop us a comment, send us a message, and help us out by leaving us a rating and a review.
And don't forget to let us know your wellness win for this week.
Thanks for listening.
Make it a great day.